Nothing of interest. The floor of the room is littered with useless junk like this. But wait a minute. I think I can see something sticking out from under that piece of wood.
Don't even think about touching anything in this house, rat! Haven't you done me and my family enough harm already? You're just a lousy thief, like all the other cockroaches around here. Get out of here!
No, wait, you're confused. I just wanted to clean up this mess a little. I just want to help you, okay?
Oh, yeah? Keep your hands off our things, you filthy rat. Understand?
Of course. Understood. Whew.
Hello, Michael.
I need your help, boys.
How can we help you, Michael?
I have to get something from inside your house. It's something I need so that I can help your father. Understand? But your mother is very agitated, and I need you to give me a hand with her. It's a mission.
What do you want us to do, Michael?
I need you to get your mother out of the house for a few minutes. Just long enough for me to go in and get what I need. Do you think you can do that?
Of course, we're big boys.
I'll owe you. I promise to give you a reward.
Okay, let's do it.
A mission.
Oh, my head! What the hell's going on? Oh, God! My head feels like it's gonna explode!
Michael, please, help us, help us. Please, remember, Beechwood Oracle.
Repent! It's the sun! Was it our fault? Did we do it? Yes! We did it!
Enough! Please! Enough!
Please, Michael, help us. Only you can do it. Remember, Beechwood Oracle.
Good God. What are these images? And that woman's voice. It's the same one that woke me up in the trailer. I'm trying to remember. Stop tormenting me. I hope Rod helps me find some answers. If not, I'll go mad. Absolutely mad.
Greetings, pal. What's this? Are you proposing a trade? Because if you are, you came to the right place. What do you need? Liquor? Cigarettes? Food?
I'm still interested in that box of food you offered me. I brought you this pack of cigarettes.
Virginia tobacco. There's not much of this in the camp. That's a good start. But it's not enough. The pack's been open and several cigarettes are missing. I need something more.
Would a bottle of liquor do?
Fantastic. I think that's a fair price. I'll take both of them. Here you go, pal. The food package is all yours. Enjoy it in good health.
Here, this is what I promised you.
That's all the food you brought? This will barely feed us for 2 days.
I'm sorry, it's very complicated getting more in the camp. I only wanted to show you that you can trust me, that I can help you.
That's what all you rats in this trash heap say? But in the end, only thing you're interested in is taking advantage of my husband and me.
I've held up my part of the bargain. Isn't that proof enough? Listen, let me have that pass to get out of the camp, and I promise I'll come back with the morphine you need to ease your husband's suffering.
Ah, okay. But you better hurry. Here.
What's this? A bracelet?
It's like an ID badge. Wear it and the soldiers will recognize you. It won't just get you out of the camp. It'll also help you avoid all kinds of problems with the army once you reach the city. I'm not sure I'm doing the right thing by giving it to you. Just don't betray me, you rat. Bring me that morphine for my husband, and I promise ya, I'll give you lots of money in return. Much more money than you could earn in a lifetime in this shithole.
No, that's not necessary. We never said anything about money.
I have to know you're coming back. I don't trust any of you, and I know that money is the only thing that'll make you keep your word. All you camp rats are alike. Now get out of my sight, and don't make me regret this. And don't come back without my husband's morphine. There'll be a fat wad of cash waiting for you.
Okay.
Go through that gate, and I'll blow your head off with one shot, rat.
Do you need to get a closer look at what I have on my wrist?
Wait a minute. Look, he's got on one of those ID bracelets the camp moles wear. Those cockroaches are very useful to us in here. Lower your gun and let him leave.
You heard him. Get out of here, rat.
So, I enter the city. It welcomes me with its most merciless and bitter grimace. What I see before my eyes is not what I expected. Doomsday made it here, too, even if no one in the refugee camp knows it yet. Damn it. The city looks as bruised and battered by the catastrophe as the rest of us. Dozens of posters, all shredded, charred or half torn off. This wall must have been used for advertising before the Great Wave. One of them in particular catches my eye.
Help me, please! Help me! Don't let them find me in the street after curfew. They'll take me to the refugee camp. Help me, please! But don't make any noise. There's a patrol just round the corner.
I'm looking for a place. Something like a pharmaceutical warehouse. Would you know anything about that?
I don't really know. There's a small medical center just outside the city limits. I suppose you mean that, right? They built it in a hurry, just knocked it together after the Great Wave. No one really knows what it's for, but there are vehicles going in and out of the place all the time. Whatever they're doing in there, they're keeping it very secret. Not even my daughter would tell me what goes on inside.
Did you say your daughter?
Yes, my daughter, my little Uma. She works there as a nurse. I'm afraid she left me. I suppose she got tired of living with a frail, sick old man like me. Because one day she simply left the house, and I haven't seen her since. It's been months now. I think she was right to leave me. These times are hard enough. You don't want to burn yourself with someone like me.
But what is it you need me to do?
It's almost curfew. I need a place to sleep. I need a place to hide, or they'll send me to the refugee camp. Don't you understand?
What is all this about a curfew?
At curfew, the soldiers want the streets cleared. And the way they see it, if you're out on the street after curfew, it means that you've got nowhere to go. You don't have a home. You don't belong here. And that makes you a rat. And so they take you to the refugee camp. I can't go to the camp. Understand? I can't go there.
You need a roof over your head, and you don't have anywhere to go.
I used to, but it doesn't exist anymore. I owned an apartment a few blocks from here. The block was badly damaged by the Great Wave, but it was still standing.
And what happened to your home?
This morning, we had to evacuate the area in a hurry. We ran out in the streets with whatever we had on. Apparently, the foundation was starting to crumble. And a few hours later, all that was left of my home was a pile of smoking rubble, with 40 years of memories buried beneath it. But I can't let them take me to the camp. I need to get into another house before the curfew. Please, help me.
Okay, give me those bolt cutters. I'll see what I can do.
This house is empty, but the army has sealed it off. If I can just get this padlock off before curfew, I'll be safe. I need to get in here. But please, don't make too much noise. If the soldiers find us, they won't hesitate to kill us.
Impossible. I'm sorry. I can't do anything with this.
I need to get in there. I need to get in.
I'm sorry. I can't help you.
Help me, please.
Three people warming themselves by the fire. They stare into the flames, as if their thoughts were also burning in that rusty old drum.
Hello, friend. You look lost. Come over by the fire.
It's dying down, but maybe it'll last until curfew.
As long as those uniformed psychopaths don't decide to end our little get-together first, of course.
Hey, look! One of those magic bracelets from the camp. They say that place is a real hellhole. A kind of living death. So you've come back from the dead. Do they call you Lazarus?
Well, you could put it that way. You were saying something about a curfew. What time does it start exactly?
Well, it depends on the mood of the soldiers in this zone. But you know it's time to go home when they start taking their guns out of their holsters.
Today they're extremely jumpy. I don't think it'll be long before they start insulting people and hitting them with their rifle butts.
You guys are awfully hard on them. It's just their crude way of showing us affection.
Oh, shut up. In any case, you don't have to worry. That bracelet means you don't have to hide from them. You know, that's one of the privileges that comes with it.
And you? Do you people have to hide?
We try to stay out of their way. The first rule is, be home before curfew. Anyone who isn't gets dragged off to refugee camp. That's one of the strictest laws the Great Wave imposed upon this city.
And do you know how things are elsewhere? Do you get news from outside?
I'm afraid not. With no communications or transportation, and with the army on every corner, we are totally cut off.
Who cares anyway? When you don't know from one day to the next if you're gonna be alive, there's no time to worry about what happens 100, 1,000, or 100,000 miles away.
I understand. Why are you afraid of the soldiers? I'd heard that things function better here.
I don't know where you heard that, friend, but whoever told you that was lying. Here, things are very ugly and getting uglier every day. Everything's in short supply: water, food, medicine.
We have a surplus of just two things: misery and violence. Life is cheap here, and getting cheaper all the time, especially since the army took over.
The army. I see. And what happened to the other authorities? The politicians? The laws?
Those are distant memories from the old world, my dear. Get them out of your head, because all that collapsed like a house of cards. Since the Great Wave, no one's got any plan, strategy. We're all adrift.
He's right. The most reliable thing we have left is what you see around the corner. Armed teenagers in uniform on the streets, on the rooftops, just as scared as we are, or more, and shooting anything that moves.
I think our common destiny is to finally die of starvation, of disease, or boredom. I don't know which of the three options I find the most cruel. Who knows? Maybe the most sensible thing is to organize a group excursion and break into Suicide Park.
Suicide Park? Don't call it that. It's not funny. That name's as stupid as that hospital they built in such a hurry next to it. It's crazy. The entire city is starving and sick, and the soldiers keep those medical facilities locked up like Fort Knox.
But what good is it having medical facilities if no one can use them? I don't understand.
No one does, friend, but that's the way it is. I don't know why anyone would want to go into that building, but I can assure you that they're not going to get treated for anything in there, not even for a miserable cold.
Besides, it's a real fortress. The person would be more likely to come out sick from an overdose of gunpowder and lead. You know how it is, dear. There's no cure for love or death. Hey, I like that last phrase. It would make a good opening line for a story.
Oh, will you shut up for once, Ramon? Don't pay any attention to him. In the old world, he earned his living writing stories, and he still thinks that all that waste paper might someday be useful after the Great Wave.
And in fact, it is. A good deal of that scrap paper is fueling this bonfire right now, dear. So I can consider my literary career to have been worthwhile.
Did you say Suicide Park? Someone in the camp told me about that place.
And the first dark stars come out to hang from the sky. We could sit and count them together, you and I.
When the sun departs from Suicide Park. Yes, I recognize the song. But what the hell is it? Is there really a place with that name?
Yes, it exists. After the Great Wave, and when things were starting to get really ugly here, the weakest among us eased their suffering with a bullet, by overdosing, or by jumping from high places. You know how it is. All those dark stars had a hard time finding a reason to go on living.
There was a terrible wave of suicides, and there still is.
The problem is at some point a problem arose. How should I put it? A serious logistical problem. Access to drugs and firearms became practically impossible. So the easiest thing was to grab a rope or a belt and go to Suicide Park after dark.
There was a time when it was hard to find a free branch anywhere in the park.
The suicides in the area multiplied at such a rate that the army closed down the park. They said for public health reasons.
For months, the only thing blooming in that park were the corpses of the hanged. The place became more like a theme park. Lots of fun for everyone.
I told you not to make jokes about that. Don't you have any respect for anything?
Of course not. That was one of the many things I lost in the Great Wave. And one of the things I missed the least, believe me.
Thanks for the chat.
Thanks for the company, friend.
The traffic in this part of the city must have been especially heavy, but now you can barely hear the sound of the few army vehicles still circulating in the surrounding areas.
Send us a sign, Lord. We need a sign from you.
Hey, wait a minute. I know that voice.
Are we guilty of arousing your rage? Did we do it? Speak with your tongue of fire, Lord. Purge us with unrelenting justice. Send us a sign. Is this our doing? Are you punishing us for our arrogance? Unleash your thunderous voice, Lord. Release us from this intolerable uncertainty. Did we do it? Send us a sign!
I'm getting a strong impression that man's a fanatic and a little bit deranged, but his sermon made me curious. What could he mean by, "we did it"?
The ruins of the temple, The lion above the flames. We still have time.
The catastrophe caused a lot of damage to the statue's pedestal.
Illuminate
The fact that the
us
statue
with
is still
your
standing
fiery voice,
is a miracle.
Lord. Send us a sign.
The pedestal definitely wobbles when I push against it. This enormous stone cross casts a giant shadow across the aisle of the church. Perhaps that wasn't the original intention, but the result is pretty gloomy and
The
menacing.
lion above the flames. We still have time.
A few parishioners listened to the words of the preacher, mesmerized. Although I'm sure that, like me, they can't decipher the meaning of his mystical rants either. Seated on these disarranged pews, some people are listening to the preacher. Others just nod off. I guess they don't have anywhere else to go.
Illuminate us with your fiery voice, Lord. Send us a sign.
I'm not going to interrupt him in the middle of his sermon. That would be rude. That must be Reverend Blake, the preacher I heard about in the camp. I don't understand a word of that man's sermon. And I'm afraid the other faithful don't either. Could that be the reason why everyone reveres him so much? The ruins of a church that was devastated by the Great Wave. It looks like the divine being didn't try very hard to protect this sacred place. Let's see. I can try to rip it off. Nothing. I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to get it off with my hands. What was formerly the entrance to a subway stop is now a bunker reinforced with bricks and cement. A moldy sign says, "Subway service suspended until further notice." I imagine the train tunnels were flooded or ruined after the Great Wave. So, let's see. Impossible. It's not that it's super heavy. It's that there's hardly any place to insert your fingers to lift this manhole cover. It's one of the ways into the city's sewer system. The Great Wave wrecked this place. Did the same thing happen down there? Judging from its girth, this giant must have lived for hundreds of years before someone got the bright idea of cutting it down. Now the stump is guarding the entrance to the park. A bucolic fountain covered with ivy and moss. The park's desolation gives it an air of mystery from the side of the fence. In its day, it must have been home to a school of goldfish, which I suppose are now gradually decomposing inside it. Southside Park. Would you believe it? This must be the famous suicide park I've been hearing so much about. Huh. The pun is as witty as it is macabre.
This entrance is reserved for authorized motor vehicles only. Get away from it. Move on.
What the hell? Those savages don't get around. I'd better avoid getting too close to that area, at least on foot. I wouldn't know how to use these glass shards here. It's the silhouette of the soldiers guarding the street from around the corner. It seems like those uniformed psychopaths' rifles are projected, and to each and every corner of the city.
I need to get it.
Okay, give me those bolt cutters. I'll see what I can do.
This house was empty. If I...
Impossible. I'm sorry. I can't help you.
Help me.
It looks like this heating technology is not limited to the refugee camp. These bonfires are used here too, and their emissions are just as toxic here as they are there. What the hell could they be burning in them? I'm not going to give it to anyone. Then I wouldn't have it anymore. The ruins of a
The thunderous voice of your angels through
I'm not
the
going to interrupt
gash. That is your sign.
I'm not going to interrupt. I prefer to hold on to it.
The ruins of the temple, the lion above
It doesn't
the
seem like a
grave.
good idea.
We still have time. Illuminate us with your
Seated on
fiery
the- I
voice,
guess-
Lord. Send us a sign. The thunderous voice
katana
of
is a
your
miracle.
angels through the gash. That is your
Is a
sign.
miracle.
Did we
The
do
remains
it?
of the stained
Are
glass
we
window
the
that went with
guilty
the
ones?
intact one on the other side of the door of the church. The great wave must have shattered it.
Did
The
we
man's
do
message
it?
intrigues
Are
me.
we
We
the
did
guilty
it.
ones?
We did it. Who does he mean by we? And what exactly did we do? What was formerly the entrance to a subway stop is now a bunker reinforced with bricks and cement. A mold subway service. I imagine the train tunnels were flooded or ruined. A metal sign bolted to the wall. It's the logo of the local subway system, and from what I can see, one of the edges is slightly detached. Let's see. I can try to rip it off. Nothing. I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to get it off with my hands. They're city dwellers, marking time until curfew. After that,
The thunderous voice of your angels through the gash. That is your sign.
I'm not going to interrupt him in the middle of his sermon. That would be rude.
Illuminate us with your fiery voice, Lord. Send us a sign.
I'm not going to interrupt him in the middle.
The thunderous voice of your angels through the gash. That is your sign.
I'm not going to. I'm not going to.
Did we do it? Are we the guilty ones?
I'm not going to interrupt.
The ruins of the temple, the lion above the flames. We still have time.
That must be Reverend Blake, the preacher I heard about in the camp. I don't understand a word of that man's sermon. And I'm afraid the other faithful don't either. Could that be the reason why everyone reveres him so much?
Your sign. The ruins of the temple, the lion above the flames. We still have time. Illuminate us with your fiery voice, Lord. Send us a sign.
Can I ask you a few questions?
Sure, but make it snappy. Can't you see that we're very busy?
What goes on inside that church? Has everyone gone completely crazy?
Are you referring to the pastor and his flock? Oh, don't pay too much attention to them. Reverend Blake is a good man. He helped a lot of people after the Great Wave. But he gradually started to lose his mind until he reached the state he's in now.
Well, I stopped by once or twice to listen to him preach. The days are long. You have to find something to do. I try to go at this time of day. There are fewer people because it's almost curfew time. The Reverend seems obsessed with that atmospheric phenomenon in the sky, and with religious themes of guilt and repentance. Although I think he's actually just talking about himself. But the most surprising thing about all this is that he has hundreds of followers. And he's attracting more and more all the time from all over the city. And they even let him into the refugee camp once in a while to preach there. People adore him.
Why does that surprise you? We've been following sane leaders since time began. And look where that got us. Maybe it's time to start following the crazier ones.
Well, that's the most sensible thing I've heard you say all day.
Thanks for the chat.
Thanks for the company, friend.
The thunderous voice of your angels through the gash. That is your sign. The ruins of the temple, the lion above the flames. We still have time.
I'm not going to interrupt him in the middle of his sermon. That would be rude.
The ruins of the temple, the lion above the flames. We still have time.
Considering the condition of the rest of the church, it's amazing that the stained glass window is still in place and practically intact. Such little light that gets in from the street gives it a ghostly appearance.
Did we do it? are we the guilty ones? The ruins of the temple, the lion above the flames. We still have time. The thunderous voice of your angels through the gash. That is your sign.
This column fragment must have fallen off one of the walls during the catastrophe. Now it's keeping the pedestal of the statue company. I'm not going to interrupt him.
The thunderous voice of your angels through the gash. That is your...
I wouldn't know how to use... I wouldn't know how to use these... I'm not going to give it to anyone. What for? Too many things in my life have already gone up in smoke. What for? I wouldn't know how to use these glass shards here. I wouldn't know how to use these glass shards here. The park is closed down, and the front gate is locked shut. If I want to get in there, it won't be through the gate. Judging from its girth, this giant must have lived for hundreds of years before someone got the bright idea of cutting it down. Now the stump... Judging from its... Now the stump is guarding the entrance to the park. The park is closed. If I want... A piece of wood with a handwritten sign. Closed for public health reasons. Judging from the handwriting and the spelling mistake, I assume the author of the message was one of those animals in uniform. A bucolic fountain covered with ivy. In its day, it must have been... Best not to waste... This plank doesn't quite... It's not that, but I need something stronger to tear this. This plank doesn't quite fit anywhere. They were nailed into it. I don't think doing this. I prefer to hold on. A chain with a padlock. Huh, but I'm no Houdini. Let's not waste any more time on this. This chain and padlock have this door locked up tight. Whoever did this made sure that no one will be able to open it again without the right key. I wouldn't know how to use it. Best not to waste time trying to... It doesn't seem like a good idea. I'm not going to give it to anyone. Then I wouldn't. This plank doesn't quite fit anywhere.
The ruins of the temple, the lion above the flames. We still have time.
I prefer to hold on to it.
Ruins of the temple, the lion
It doesn't seem
the
like...
flames. We still have time.
This plank... Let's see. If I wedge one of the ends of the plank under the statue's pedestal, the other part will rest directly on the base of the toppled column.
That is your sign.
The catastrophe caused a lot of damage to the statue's pedestal. The fact that the statue is still is a miracle.
Did we do it? Are we the guilty ones? We're waiting, Lord. Did we do it? Illuminate us. Send us a sign with your just and vengeful arm. Is this our fault? Listen! It's the fiery breath of God. The Lord has sent us his sign. And I was right. It is all our fault. We did it. And we have aroused his fury.
But what the hell's going on here?
Look, that's the sign. Forgive us, Lord. Forgive us. Repent, all ye sinners.
It's the atmospheric phenomenon I've been hearing so much about. That infernal sound coming from the crack in the sky. It's terrifying.
That is the sign. We did it. Forgive us, Lord. Forgive us. My children, God has spoken to us with his darkest voice. Haven't you heard him? But there's still time. All is not lost. We still have time. Salvation lies in the place where it all began, in the ruins, at the source. We must return to the ruins of the temple. We must return. We must.
Well, look at that. Next to this enormous hunk of glass, the colored glass shards I picked up earlier look ridiculous. I'd better get rid of them. What for? I'd only end up breaking the glass, or even worse, cutting my hand with it.
I need to get in here. But please, don't make too much noise.
I'm sorry.
Help!
What for? Cutting my hand? A hard, thick piece of glass, and it has a very, very sharp point. The nails that held up the sign announcing the closure of Suicide Park, they're incredibly rusty. But considering the epidemic of the dissolved, tetanus is the least of my worries at the moment. This fence protects the compound. It seems like barbed wire. What for? Cutting my hand. I'll do this very carefully, so that the glass doesn't break in two. Perfect. The hole I've dug is big enough to get to the other side of the fence. You can smell these dead creatures from several yards away. I have no intention of picking up those rotten fish with my hands, to say nothing of putting them in my pocket. These are the remains of the fish that used to swim around in the fountain. It looks like the catastrophe caught them by surprise, too. Ugh. The smell they give off is nauseating. Good God. There are dozens, hundreds of corpses hanging from the branches. What could have drawn all these people here? What kind of pain? What kind of desperation brought them here? These are the corpses of ordinary people who were living their ordinary lives in their ordinary little worlds up to a very short time ago. Could any of them have imagined meeting an end like this back then? Forgotten and nameless, swaying in the breeze like marionettes. And all those savages in uniforms did was close the park. They didn't even bother to cut their bodies down from the trees. I'm afraid that tonight, there are too many dark stars to count in Suicide Park. A rotting bench overlooking purgatory. It looks like the kid who hanged himself from this tree climbed up on this and then jumped with the rope around his neck. The trees and bushes are so close together here that I can hardly push the branches to one side with my hands. The thorns in these bushes are jabbing into me like metal spikes. I'm not going to be able to open up a path this way. That strikes me as disrespectful, and I don't think it would do anything for me. I'd rather leave him to rest in peace. I'm not going to cut it. If I can manage to salvage this rope without cutting it, it could be useful to me. I'm not going to cut it. If I want to hack a path through this wall of vegetation, I'll have to use something that cuts. It's impressive. The park was able to devour the fence effortlessly. The metal bars became like plasticine, molded by the whims of the vegetation. Wait a minute. That guy is the suicide victim who was hanging from this tree. No, don't do it, please. No! Good God, I saw him hang himself. Although the crows have already done a thorough job on him, from what's left, I'd say that the corpse belongs to a young man, barely of legal age, one of the many dark stars in the park. With the noose around its neck, the corpse's body sways in the wind like a rag doll. Impossible. One of its ends is tied to the crowbar, and the other... well, the other is also tied to something. Impossible. I'll need... The crowbar fits perfectly into the hole in the manhole cover. Maybe with the help of the crowbar, I can get the subway sign off the wall. Damn it! I've managed to tear it down, but the subway sign is broken in two. I agree that violence is sometimes the shortest path between 2 points, but considering how heavy this padlock and the chain are, I'm not sure that brute force is going to help me open this door. The subway sign is already broken in two. I don't see any point in breaking it anymore. I doubt I'd accomplish anything using the piece. I could tie the rope there, but what for? Wait a minute. I'm not going to climb down any further. It's totally dark in there, and it would be crazy to go into these sewers without any light.